the group chat I want to tell you about the last normal conversation I ever had with one of my best friends. Because after that week, I'm not sure anything she sent me was actually from her anymore. This isn't a story about a haunted house or some creepy thing in the woods. It's about 4 people and a group chat we'd had running since we were 17 years old. And it's about how I found out that something can know exactly what you're about to say before you've said it, and use that against you. Part 1. The 4 of us. So, some context first, because I need you to understand what this chat actually meant to us. There were 4 of us. Me, Dev, Mara, and Priya. We met freshman year of high school in the same lunch period, and by senior year we'd built this dumb, chaotic group chat called the Basement Crew, named after Dev's actual basement, where we used to play video games until 3 a.m. on weekends. 9 years later, we were all in our mid-20s, scattered across 3 different cities, and that chat was basically the only thing keeping us connected. We texted in it every single day. Not big important conversations, just noise. Memes, complaints about work, pictures of food. Does anyone remember the name of that teacher who? Type stuff. It was background noise to our lives, the kind you don't think about until it's gone. Dev was the jokester. Every group has one, the guy who can't send a normal message without turning it into a bit. He worked in IT, which he complained about constantly, and he had this specific rhythm to how he texted. Always lowercase, always 3 dots trailing off, always somehow making even bad news sound like a punchline. Mara was the organizer. She was the one who actually planned our reunions, remembered everyone's birthdays, sent the hey, checking in, haven't heard from you in a bit texts when someone went quiet. If the chat had a heart, it was Mara. And then there was Priya. Priya was the quiet one, but not in a shy way, more like she was always thinking 2 steps ahead of the rest of us. She was doing her residency at a hospital a few hours from where I lived, which meant she texted in bursts. Silence for 18 hours, then a flood of messages at 2 a.m. when her shift ended. She had this dry, deadpan sense of humor that took people a while to get used to. I'd known her the longest out of the 3 of them. We'd been close since we were 15. I'm telling you all this because what happened to this. To something that felt permanent, and I think that's part of what made it so hard to accept when it started going wrong. Part 2, the first wrong thing. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my long shift at work, and I was sitting in the break room scrolling through my phone, half paying attention to the chat like always. Dev sent a message. Okay, real talk, does anyone else's landlord just not fix things, or is it just me, normal? Completely normal. I was about to type back something like lol, mine hasn't fixed my sink in 3 weeks, and I actually had the words typed out in my head before I even opened my keyboard. And then before I could type anything, a new message came in. Me, lol, mine hasn't fixed my sink in 3 weeks either. I stared at it. That was what I was about to say. Word for word almost. I hadn't typed it. I hadn't sent it. But it was sitting there in the chat, under my name in my exact texting style, timestamped 2 minutes before the message from Dev that I was responding to. I remember laughing it off in the moment. I figured it was a glitch, maybe a message that failed to send earlier and finally went through, or some weird caching bug with the app. I even texted the group. Lol, did I already say that? Phone's tripping, Mara. Say what? I don't see anything from you before Dev's message. I looked again. She was right. On my screen, there were now 2 messages from me, the glitch one, and then my actual new one asking if I'd already said it. But when I scrolled up to check the timestamp again, it still read 6:14 p.m. Dev's message was 6:16 p.m. Dev, bro, are you good? I said I was fine. I said my phone was probably just buggy. And for about 4 days, that's exactly what I believed because nothing else happened, and life kept moving. And you don't really sit around waiting for your phone to do something inexplicable a second time. Then it happened again. To Mara, part 3, it wasn't just me the second time. I saw it happen live, which is the part that still gets to me. We were all texting on a Sunday night, just talking about a trip we were loosely planning for the fall. Dev was pushing for a cabin in the mountains, Priya wanted somewhere warm, and Mara was trying to referee like always. Mara typed something. I could see the typing bubble at the top of the chat. And while she was still typing, a message from her posted. Mara, honestly guys, I don't care where we go, I just want us all together again. It's been too long. The typing bubble was still going. I remember staring at my screen, at the little animated dots still bouncing, underneath a message that had, somehow, already been sent from the same person. 15 seconds later, the typing bubble stopped, and a new message came through. Mara, Honestly, guys, I don't care where we go, I just want us all together again. It's been too long, identical. Word for word. Same message, sent twice, 4 seconds apart, but the first one, the future one, had gone through while she was still in the middle of typing it the first time. I sent a screenshot to the chat immediately. Did anyone else see that? Her message posted before she finished typing it, and then she sent the same message again, Dev. Okay, yeah, that's not normal, lol, what Mara? What are you talking about? I only sent it once. I sent her the screenshot. There was a long pause, the kind where you can feel the room go quiet even over text. Mara, that's freaking me out a little, not gonna lie. I didn't send that first one. I don't even remember typing that exact sentence. I was gonna say something totally different, and then changed my mind halfway through and wrote that instead. That's the part that got under my skin. She had changed her mind mid-message. And the future text had already predicted the version she landed on, not the version she started with. We joked about it for a bit longer that night, in the nervous way you do when you're trying to talk yourselves out of being scared. Dev said it was probably some AI predictive text feature none of us knew we'd turned on. Mara said she'd check her settings. I said I'd Google it. I did Google it, by the way. There's no such feature. Not one that sends a message for you before you've decided to send it, matching your actual mid-sentence change of heart. Part 4, we started testing it. This is the part I regret most, if I'm honest. Because we didn't stop, we tested it. It became this dark little game over the next week and a half. Someone would announce, out loud on a call, okay, I'm about to type something completely random that I haven't thought about at all. And then they'd type it into the chat, and more often, a version of that message, sometimes with the exact same words, sometimes eerily close, would appear in the chat log a few minutes before they actually sent it. Not every time, maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 attempts. But when it happened, it was never vague. It was never something generic. It was specific in our own voices, using our own slang, referencing things we'd only just decided to say. Dev tried to break it by typing something absurd, a string of numbers, a nonsense sentence, and for 2 days nothing happened. He got cocky about it. Said the phone ghost, or whatever we were calling it by then, had lost interest in him. Then, on the 3rd day, this came through under his name, 3 minutes before he sent his actual message. Dev, okay, I need to stop joking about this because it's actually scaring me a little he hadn't typed that. He told us later that night on a call, voice a little too flat for his usual tone, that he'd been about to type exactly that, word for word. But he'd stopped himself because he didn't want to admit it out loud in the chat. He didn't want to be the one to say we should be scared. The chat said it for him. That was the first time none of us made a joke afterward. We just sat there, 3 different cities, 3 different phone screens, in silence. Part 5, PRIYA went quiet around this time. Priya started pulling back from the chat. At first, I didn't think much of it. She worked brutal hours, and it wasn't unusual for her to go dark for a day or two during a rough rotation at the hospital. But this was different. This wasn't her usual silence then flood pattern. She'd send one-word replies. She'd leave things on read for 12, 18, 24 hours. When Mara called her directly to check in, Priya picked up but sounded strange, distracted, distant, like she was answering questions from somewhere else in her head. I keep getting messages I don't remember sending, she told Mara, according to what Mara told me afterward. In the group chat and also just to myself, like drafts, things I never wrote showing up in my own notes app. Mara asked her what kind of things. Priya reportedly went quiet on the phone for a few seconds and then said, things I was going to write, except I hadn't decided to write them yet. Then she said something that Mara couldn't stop repeating to me afterward, word for word, because it unsettled her so badly. It's not copying what I say. It's copying what I haven't figured out I'm going to say yet. That's worse. 3 days after that call, Priya stopped responding entirely. Not slow replies, nothing. Read receipts stopped showing up. Her last seen status, which the app normally displayed, just disappeared, like her account had gone into some kind of limbo. We told ourselves she was just buried in work. We told ourselves that for almost a week. Part 6, the messages that came after here's where it stopped being a weird glitch we joked about, and started being something I genuinely don't have an explanation for. 9 days after Priya went silent, messages started appearing in the chat under her name again. At first they seemed normal enough that it was almost a relief. A simple, hey, sorry, I've been MIA, work's been insane. Mara responded right away, relieved, asking if she was okay, if she wanted to catch up on a call. No response for hours. Then late that night, Priya, I'm around, just tired. You guys should get some sleep, it's late where you both are. It was late. It was almost 1 a.m. for me, and Mara was in a different time zone where it was also close to midnight. Priya had no way of knowing what time it currently was for either of us. Not from a text alone, not without checking, and neither of us had mentioned the time in the conversation. Dev, trying to keep things light, texted, "Proof of life, send us a selfie lol, no selfie ever came." Instead, 4 minutes later, Priya, "Dev, you're going to spill your coffee in about 30 seconds. Might want to move your laptop." Dev told us afterward, and he does not scare easily, I want to be clear about that he had in fact just reached for his coffee mug on his desk at that exact moment, elbow grazing it, catching it before it tipped, laptop 6 inches away from a direct hit. He didn't respond in the chat for almost 20 minutes after that. When he finally did, all he wrote was, "How did you know that?" No response. The messages kept coming after that, spaced out unpredictably, sometimes days apart, but always the same pattern, small, specific, present-tense observations about what one of us was doing or about to do, right as it was happening, sometimes seconds before. They read exactly like Priya. Same punctuation habits, same dry tone, same way of trailing a sentence off without a period. If you didn't know better, you'd swear it was just her, tired and distracted, checking in from wherever she was. Except we tried more than once to call the number. It rang and never picked up. We tried her hospital. A coworker told Myra that Priya had actually requested a leave of absence over 2 weeks earlier, right around when the first typing bubble incident happened with Myra. Nobody at the hospital had heard from her since. Her apartment building's front desk said mail was piling up in her box. She was, by every account except the one still texting in our group chat, gone. Part 7, What Happened to Me. I've put off telling this part, because it's the one I still can't fully explain, and it's the one that made me stop checking that chat altogether. It was a Thursday night. I was home alone, sitting on my couch, phone in hand, chat open, staring at the last message, which had come in 2 days earlier and just said, from Priya, "You should check on the others more. It gets harder to reach people the longer you wait." I was in the middle of typing a message to Dev and Mara, something like, "Has anyone actually gone to check on her apartment?" when my phone buzzed in my hand before I'd finished the sentence. A new message had come in, from Priya. "Priya, you're sitting on the couch with the lamp behind you. You should turn around. I want to be honest with you, I did not turn around right away." I sat there staring at that message for what felt like a very long time, telling myself it was a coincidence, telling myself someone was messing with me, telling myself a dozen things that didn't actually explain how a phone that had been sitting dark and untouched on my couch cushion could possibly know I was sitting on my couch, with a lamp behind me, in a room with the blinds shut, at 11:40 at night, with nobody else aware of where I was. When I did turn around, there was nothing there, obviously. I want to say that clearly because I know how this sounds, and I'm not going to pretend something jumped out at me because it didn't. The room was empty. The lamp was exactly where it always was. Nothing had moved. But another message came through while I was still turned around, facing the empty room, phone forgotten on the couch behind me. I picked it up with my hands shaking harder than I'd like to admit. "Priya, see." Nothing there. Yet. I left the apartment that night and stayed at a friend's place, not one from the chat, someone completely unconnected to any of it, and I didn't open that group chat again for 11 days. Part 8, where this leaves us when I finally worked up the nerve to check the chat again. There were 60-some unread messages. Most were from Dev and Mara, increasingly worried texts asking where I'd gone, asking if I was okay, asking if I'd heard anything from Priya. Scattered among them, maybe 8 or 9 total, were more messages under Priya's name. I'm not going to write out all of them here. Most followed the same pattern. Small, quiet, present-tense observations about things Dev or Mara were doing in real time. Things there was no ordinary way for her to know. The last one in the chat, the most recent one, sent 4 days before I finally opened the app again, is the one I keep coming back to. It wasn't directed at anyone in particular. It just sat there alone, no reply beneath it, time-stamped 3:14 am Priya. I think I understand it now. It doesn't copy what you're going to say. It copies what you're going to become. Ask Dev what he's going to say next. Dev never replied to that message. Not once in the 4 days between when it was sent and when I finally saw it. I called him. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called Mara, straight to voicemail too. I'm writing this from a hotel room 2 states away from either of them because I couldn't make myself go check in person, and I know exactly how that sounds. I know what it sounds like to say I'd rather not know than go find out. But I keep that chat open on my phone, propped on the nightstand, and every so often, not every night, but often enough that I've stopped being able to sleep with the screen dark. A new typing bubble appears at the top. It's been sitting there for the last 6 minutes. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to watch it finish.